Hello and welcome to News Trash, the weekly edition of news in which we look at the news. I could have done that intro better, but I'm going to roll with it. I'm not a retake. No retake Jones here. I am Rob, and as ever I'm joined by Prob. He's also called Rob, but just to differentiate, he gets called Prob. And he's reading the news today, so hello.
Hello. Prob is not because I'm problematic or any other words that begin with prob, like probe or anything like that.
You're very good at maths, so you're very good at calculating probability factors, so we just reduce it to prob. No. Producer Rob is what he's short for. Producer Rob.
Yeah, I've just realised that probably is also a word beginning with prob, and I'm not sure how to apply that to myself. I'm probably Rob.
You're getting into existential angst there, Rob, and I don't think that's what people really are invested in.
But anyway, starting off with Microsoft, they did their Twitch Game Pass showcase thing called ID at Xbox.
Yeah. Just before you go into what it might have been in there or what might not have been there, I don't approve of the way they did this. I know a lot of people enjoy Twitch, but honestly, I prefer it where it's just sort of a produced show.
Yeah.
This is very, I know it's kind of done this way because it's indie games and they don't have the budget to stretch to indie games to make them like a produced show. But still, on Twitch, it alienates a certain factor of your audience, that I think.
That and the fact that it was, 4 hours long?
Yes.
Who's going to sit there for 4 hours?
People do, Rob. People do. But not us.
Why?
So there's a few interesting things, though, surely.
Yeah, there's a few interesting things. I mean, one of the flavours of the moment is Narrated By, which got announced, and that's from Team 17 and Studio Cobra. We're big fans of Team 17, by the way. But Art of Rally, which is one that you were looking forward to, Rob.
Yeah, because it's very pure arcade racing. And we've said on the sister show to this, and possibly mentioned many times, that the world needs more arcade races, and this is as pure and as elegant and as simple, and it does it in a sort of a low-poly style, so it really does appeal to me on pretty much every facet of its existence.
Yeah, one that I'm looking forward to is Stalker 2, because I'm a massive fan of the original Stalker game.
There's a new one. I can't remember the name of it, but it's from Drinkbox Studio, the studio who formerly did the Guacamelee games. About the end of the world, somebody saves the world, or nobody saves the world. I think that's what it was
Nobody
called.
Saves the World from Drinkbox.
That looks really good.
Yeah, that one looks really good. One that I found quite interesting was She Dreams Elsewhere, which is kind of a surreal adventure RPG about dreams. And dreams and mirroring reality and stuff like that. I found it quite a fascinating concept because I like indie games where they do a lot of concept work, where there's a lot of ideas thrown into the game.
Yeah, I mean, there's this one coming up that's going to be debuting on Games Pass. I don't know whether it was part of this showcase or not, because there's a lot to get through when that forwards.
Yeah.
But Genesis Noir is very much of that stock.
Yeah. Yes, it is. What was it? Another one that kind of got my attention is this Library of Ruina, which was, it's a strategy type game, with a pretty heavy storyline. But I like the idea of it, and obviously, as a former librarian in a past life, I am partial to any game with the word library in it.
I worked in a library too. It was the reference library. It didn't last long.
See, that's the thing. I would have enjoyed working in a reference library. I'd work in a normal library, which, you have to deal with people in the normal library.
You're just not smart enough, Rob. That's the problem.
No. The problem isn't that. The problem is when you work in a normal library and you're a bit too smart, then it becomes problematic.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting from Microsoft. I think once upon a time, it feels like an eternity ago now, they were often accused of having no games. And I know appealing indie games to a mass audience they don't really jam as ideas. But with showcases like this, they really are showing the turning around that idea that they have nothing, they have no games.
Yeah, one of the other interesting ones that I found was that Sable from Raw Fury, which
if that ever turns up.
Yeah,
if that ever turns up.
Yeah, if it ever turns up. But that I've been looking forward to that for a long time. But yeah, I mean, there were a total of like 22 indie games onshore, and
That's significant.
yeah, it's a lot of games. I'm really looking forward to quite a few of them.
Yeah, it's a great time for games. Yeah, Microsoft have really set out a really solid start for themselves for the next whatever years.
Yeah. Meanwhile, their opponents seem to have shot themselves a little bit in the foot.
If this is what I think you're referring to, I don't think they've shot themselves up the foot. I think they've sat on a gun and pulled the trigger. Shot themselves right up the anus.
Yeah.
Honestly.
See, there was, according to various reports from The Gamer and other sources, and The Gamer basically cited a source in the know who was confirmed, Sony were allegedly going to be closing the PS3, PSP, and PS Vita digital stores for good from July through to August. And something has happened since that news came out. Sony have shut down the old web version of the PS3, PSP, and PS Vita stores. So there's probably a lot more truth to this than anyone first thought, which, to me, as a video games collector, I find that shocking.
It's just a really arrogant attitude.
Yeah.
I know from a business perspective, you could make the case of they want you invested in the new system. They want you buying new. They don't want you looking back. They don't want you spending money on a place which is gone long past. They want you to make their investments in these massive AAA productions worthwhile. They want your money there. They don't care about old games. Now. But at the same time, that's basically showing an absolute disgusting neglect and arrogance for classic games and old games and cult games. But more than that, it's about games preservation. And this is basically saying that games don't deserve to be saved. Who's going to play them anyway? The garbage.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, you can still access those games through the console PlayStation Network, the console PlayStation Network storefront for now. But the web version of it, you can't get through to them at all. And all that's going to do is, right, there are going to be several after effects of this. Sony are going to be notorious for not having games preservation as part of their mantra.
Which is a major thing.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
Because just on that point, you go back to a book from 50 years ago, you can get it, no problem.
Yeah.
TV show, little bit of digging, no problem. Movie, no problem. But
music,
video games from even 10 years ago, music too. But movies from video games from even 10 years ago, the fact that is becoming a problem, I find disgusting, honestly.
The thing that I find appalling about this is that in general, there has been a severe lack of preservation in the video games industry, which I find it quite sad, because there are a lot of games that I grew up playing which you simply cannot find now. I have fond memories of all sorts of games from when I grew up, from the Commodore Amiga and from the ZX Spectrum, from the Commodore 64, from various other computers and even PC-based games that you just simply cannot access now because they weren't on console.
Looking at the PlayStation 1 era, that for me is the golden era of the JRPG, and because the PlayStation 3 had this system, didn't they? They had their PlayStation 1 classics. It was a range of old games you could get on the PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
So in doing that, they basically got rid of all those old games you can access.
We've got Suikoden 1 and 2 through that.
Yeah, they basically said no to handheld gaming, even though their PS Vita was probably one of the greatest pound-for-pound handheld machines that ever existed, like pure handheld machines.
Yeah. And the PS Vita was a beast of a machine that was sorely let down by Sony's decision to use a proprietary memory card.
Basically disregarding their entire history.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a massive fan backlash over this. I think Sony. You remember back on that E3 when Sony did that. This is how easy it is to share games on the PlayStation 4.
It's funny how time turns, doesn't it?
Yeah. I reckon...
What's that figure of speech? I think it's... is it Batman? Heroes live long enough to see themselves...
become the villain, yeah. It's a Batman... well, it's not a Batman line. It's an older line than that, but,
Batman who made it famous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what Sony are doing. So I'm genuinely disappointed with Sony, but it's kind of I heard somebody describe them as this, and I think it's perfect because you look at the company I'm about to reference, and they are about the most staggeringly ugly capitalist organisation. The fact that they had like a corporate battle with Epic over the past, I don't know, 8 months says everything about them, and all they really want is more of a return, more profits, more percentages. And Sony are basically Apple now.
Yeah, yes they are. I mean, you look at their machines, you look at all the stuff that they're doing on the games front, and they are so totally Apple. The thing is, Sony are trying to create this kind of... it feels like Sony are trying to create this artificial fear of missing out with stuff like this.
Well, they created that's long since been established.
No, but, it is an artificial fear of missing out, isn't it? Because they're creating price hikes and all sorts. Do you know who else is notorious for doing that? Nintendo, right?
Oh yeah, they're constantly deleting stuff. They've deleted literally every storefront they ever had.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, right? Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which was like Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and I think it was, I can't remember what the other one was, but it was available, it's only been out like 6 months, and it was available on the Nintendo shop. And Nintendo basically turned around and said, yeah, we're not selling this after the 31st of March. And like, okay.
You can take on lots of stances in this, but honestly, I don't think they should have released it anyway, because you're taking these 3 titles that came on systems with very, very idiosyncratic controllers. And from what I've heard, they basically didn't tailor it to the Switch's controller.
Yeah.
So it didn't fit, it didn't play well. It was a broken control system on a system that didn't fit it.
Yeah, but Nintendo marketing succeeded. Because you know what? Sales of Super Mario 3D All-Stars in the final week before the 31st, and we're only a couple of days away from the 31st, but as of, according to this article from Game Industry, sales have gone up by 276%.
Yeah, it's stuff that really annoys me, how little big companies think of us, the consumers.
Yeah.
And it's when people get really loyal about an organisation which basically doesn't give a damn about you, which really bothers me.
It's one of those things where it just... I find practices like this are ultimately detrimental to industries, but, there's no way to get around them. These companies need to make money however they can, It's sad, but that's the way it is. Nintendo are obviously they're obviously something is happening on the financial side, I would say, for them to be pulling moves like this. Possibly it has to do with the upcoming upgrade to the Switch, which is apparently going to be using NVIDIA's deep learning super sampling technology to upscale to almost 4K on TVs, which is surprising, but I don't know whether it's worth... because apparently they're going to be selling it at about 400 quid.
Yeah, so basically they're doing a PlayStation 4 Pro or an Xbox One when they're still literally a generation behind as far as technology.
Yeah.
So it's I can understand why they did it, because it allows them to... Because game engines get more mature and people get more out of them, but at the same time those original machines are chugging along. So they need to do it just so the people who bought their machines can actually play their games. But as far as keeping up with the Joneses, as the saying goes, I think they're way, way, way behind.
Yeah. See, the problem I've got with this, to me, right, I know the PlayStation Pro and the Xbox One X were a thing, that's fine. But there was a massive leap in technology in both those consoles, and it doesn't feel, from what I've seen of the specifications for the new Nintendo Switch, it doesn't feel like it's the same kind of technological leap from the old console to the new one. There was a massive difference between the PS4 and the PS4 Pro, for example.
I mean, 720p screen.
Yeah.
My phone from about 6 years ago had a better screen than that.
Yeah, do you know what this feels like to me? Do you remember the Mega Drive, right?
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah, I had a Mega Drive. I loved it. Favorite console.
Yeah, but Sega decided, the Mega Drive needs to upgrade to catch up with other things, so they released the Mega Drive 2. But before they released the Mega Drive, but then after the Mega Drive 2 came out, fine, upgraded Mega Drive 2. But then, how do you upgrade the Mega Drive to? You add the Mega CD. How do you upgrade from the Mega Drive Mega CD? You add the 32X.
Yeah, there wasn't many games for that either, the Mega CD. It wasn't really worth it.
There were even fewer games for the 32X. Yeah, basically, you know what it was? Analogy, it's going to be tortured analogy, but it's still an analogy, so go with it.
Hey, that's my job. You're not supposed to do that.
Old Robs do new jobs. That rhymes, hey. So, tortured analogy, it's like asking a handyman to fix your wardrobe with a couple of nails and some duct tape when you could easily ask a carpenter basically to make you a new wardrobe for the same price.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a Nintendo Switch Pro. It's not upgraded enough.
No.
This is basically just like a new model.
Yeah.
Like you got like a slightly smaller PlayStation 4 or one with a slightly bigger hard drive. Nothing drastic, just a little nudge forward. Yeah.
Interestingly, I mentioned Sega, and something has come up which has made Sega basically smelling of roses. Yeah?
If you're talking what I think you're talking about, it was a very weird turn.
I don't know. What are you talking about?
How basically in 2020 they had the highest Metacritic average game for review scores.
Yeah, they were named Publisher of the Year.
How did that happen?
Exactly. I mean, Annapurna and Capcom were in like second and third place. But Sega, with, Persona 5 Royal and Yakuza 0, they climbed the charts from number 18 in 2019, and their final score in Metacritic's ranking was 327.2 points, and its average review score was 81.6 in 2020. So basically...
Yeah, that's a proper spit take, isn't it? They were sort of minding their own business, as Sega have done for many decades now. And that happens.
I mean,
you spat the coffee everywhere.
Between 2019 and 2020, Sega went from 18th place to first place.
This makes young me so happy.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm a total, unabashed, unapologetic Sega kid. So to see that, and this isn't them climbing back, I'm not going to make a grand and delusional statement as them climbing back from the abyss, but to see them on the right path. Yeah. To see them stabilised and making desirable games again. That makes me happy, that does. It really does.
Sony went from 22nd place to number 4. Pretty much everyone else except for, Axis Games and No More Robots, they weren't even listed in 2019, but they were 7th and 8th. Nintendo dropped from 3rd to 9th. Microsoft went up one place from 7th to 6th, and Activision Blizzard dropped from 2nd to 5th place. And yeah, Devolver Digital stayed at number 10 for the second year running. So
good on Devolver Digital.
Yeah, for staying in there.
Like in the world. It's a turn of fate, I mean, once upon a time, the best that you could get from Sega in a year was a really, really bad Sonic game.
Yeah, but it does explain the next article, right? Online games giant Nexon, they're investing $1.5 billion as part of an initiative to support overlooked and undervalued entertainment firms. And as part of that, they're investing $874 million into Bandai Namco, Konami, Hasbro, and Sega.
Oh, good. That's a nice story.
Yeah.
Because I've been talking, and probably jumping the gun a little bit, in saying that Japanese games aren't what they used to be. They don't do what they used to. They're kind of just anime games and mobile games. But with Sega coming number 1 in this chart, and a company putting so much money behind studios like that, studios which, let's be honest, they've seen better days. It's really positive for video games, and it kind of makes the skew helps make the skew a little bit more global than just American stuff.
Well, I mean, the investment comes after Nexon's board approved the plans to pour $1.5 billion into entertainment companies that demonstrate the ability to develop and sustain strong, globally recognised intellectual property. And
just on this, a thought just struck me.
Yeah.
This is kind of a weird phase of video games right now, because everybody's sort of clanning up, aren't they?
Yeah. Yes,
they are. I don't know what the group is. It was Koch Media and THQ Nordic. They're like buying up studios.
They became like a super group.
Yeah, there's Microsoft are buying everybody. Tencent are buying loads of people. Everybody's just... What's going to happen? Is there a war going to happen, Rob? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe it'll become like the video games equivalent, the video games industry equivalent of, say, Human Revolution, where corporations control the gamers.
Oh, I was thinking of Mad Max, but yeah, sure, go with that, yeah.
But anyway, according to President and CEO of Nexon, Owen Mahoney, these are long-term friendly investments with no intention of acquisition or activism, and the interest in forming partnerships was not a consideration in Nexon's investment decisions. It sparked discussions between Nexon and some of these companies, but according to Mahoney, we believe companies with strong, well-managed global IP are often overlooked and undervalued in a market that is narrowly focused on introduction of new IP, which is absolutely correct, and I hope you're paying attention, Sony.
I'm sorry, have I blacked out there? What's this got to do with Sony, sorry?
Global IP, we believe companies with strong, well-managed global IP are often overlooked and undervalued in a market that is narrowly focused on introductions of new intellectual property, which is basically Sony. Sony getting rid of the PlayStation 3, PlayStation Portable, and PlayStation
right, that's
Vita
what you're
store.
referring to.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. If this results in Konami being productive again, that's good.
Yeah.
Because they are basically probably the biggest sleeping giant in video games. I know people like to hate them, but yeah, they are a huge sleeping giant.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Microsoft in amongst the people who are buying stuff up, because Microsoft are among the suitors. They're not the only suitor, but they are among the suitors to buy Discord in a deal that is reportedly worth around $10 billion.
Yeah, they're shopping themselves around down the Discord.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing for me, because Amazon has Twitch, yeah?
It's not really like Discord at all, but
no, it's not like Discord at all. But Twitch streamers generally use Discord. Lots of gamers use Discord. And Microsoft had their own streaming thing that was like Twitch, well, didn't they?
Mixer, yeah.
Yeah, but the problem with Mixer was that it was never going to be a rival Twitch. But with this, if they managed to incorporate some of the Skype technologies into Discord and improve the stability of Discord, and then combine it with Mixer.
Well, Mixer's gone now.
When it comes to these sorts of things, I am very hesitant to say something is completely gone, right? Because
because there was a lot of bad press surrounding it.
Yeah, these companies have a habit of getting rid of something, then releasing something that looks remarkably like the thing that they got rid of, but with new technologies and updated and with also all sorts of newfangled gizmos, and then re-releasing it under a different name. And I think I think that might be what's happening here. If Microsoft do buy Discord,
Discord is much more than gaming related. It's a very strong forum and all-in-one chat platform, which works across multiple formats.
Yeah. And
honestly, it's what gamers use to talk to each other and have groups and do what the old forums used to do.
Yeah.
And nothing has that all-in-one functionality. So honestly, with them having Skype was bad. Skype is so bad. This could potentially be an acquisition which allows them to basically rise to the top, because the Discord with the investment of a Microsoft makes that a frankly terrifyingly good prospect.
That my other idea, slightly outlandish, but this one I think has a lot more legs because it's already been done, right? Combining Discord with Game Pass. And the reason
they're going to do that.
As in a full formal combination between the two. And the reason I think that might be something that'll happen is because Steam already does that. Steam already has the chat function and the friend function and everything like that on Steam.
Yeah, well, it's a very strong statement of intent. You know.
If they do buy Discord, it's $10 billion, so it's not a short amount. It's not a small amount of money, and they did just buy Bethesda ZeniMax, so
yeah, they're not finished buying things, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
this application's way beyond gaming, though. So that Microsoft are the best company for something like that with their computing power and infrastructure.
Yeah. Anyway, Square have been in the news. Square Enix, they've been in the news as well. For slightly sadder news, I was kind of looking forward to the mobile reboot of Final Fantasy XI because I played the original Final Fantasy XI when it was out on PC, and I enjoyed it. Obviously, when that game finished, they came out with Final Fantasy XIV, which was abysmal, and then they redid that to A Realm Reborn, which is fantastic. But, you know, a mobile reboot of an online game, it's always going to be a iffy thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think this is another one of those cases where they'd probably rather have all of the teams working on Final Fantasy VII Remake and 16.
Yeah, and so because of that, Nexon and Square have announced that the mobile reboot has been officially cancelled because it apparently didn't meet expectations. So that's, you know, it's kind of sad for fans of the original Final Fantasy XI, but again, I kind of understand the game had been kind of stuck in development for 5 years, so, you know, something's got to give at that point, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, maybe we'll see Agent one day, Rob.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, Agent is the PlayStation 3 game that Rockstar were allegedly making to be an exclusive on the PlayStation 3. We've got an announcement trailer from it. That's it.
Oh, please. Rockstar, if you're listening, right, release Agent on the PlayStation 3.
Yeah,
specifically,
they've got the power to do that.
Just to piss Sony off.
They have the power. One of the few gaming companies that have the legit power to do something.
Exactly. Like, and I would love it if Rockstar just basically did that, just to release it on the PlayStation 3, just to piss Sony off and make a point.
You get, just on this, you get the inclination that Sony are kind of aware that things are drifting away from them slightly.
They have to be. I mean, there's no way you can ignore it. In this world of social media, before social media was a thing, you could ignore the public sentiment because there was this gap, there was this separation between you and what people were saying. The most you had were people writing letters in, you know, or letters that you read in magazines, or commentary from magazines. That was it. But with the advent of the internet and social media, that's gone. Now it's up close and personal. The next stage is literally meeting Sony execs face to face and, you know, shouting at them in their face.
Yeah, but social media is full of sycophantic fanboys who just say yes about everything that Sony do.
Yeah.
But I think the guy in the street, I think that market is drifting slightly from them, and they have to be aware of it.
Yeah. Back to Square Enix for a second. Their new game, Balan Wonderland, which is you know, reminiscent of Sonic and Nights into Dreams and various other things, apparently hasn't been doing too well. Partly because a lot of people have not enjoyed the game, but also partly because, well, Square have warned players to update the game to avoid the risk of epilepsy. The launch of the game was troubled by reports that the final boss fight contains a potential epilepsy risk, and Square have had to push out an emergency update to counter that.
Why would they even let that in the game in the first place? Have a little bit of quality control.
Yes. I mean,
epilepsy is very serious.
Exactly. I'm actually shocked at the lack of attention. I mean, it's to do with flashing lights. It's common knowledge that flashing lights in certain sequences, you know, or just in general, this kind of strobing effect will cause, you know, can trigger epileptic seizures. And so,
I mean, even people who don't have epilepsy, it can be quite overwhelming.
Yeah, and so, you know, you go out of your way to avoid certain things like that to make sure they don't happen.
Yeah, this is very amateurish behaviour from Square.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll repeat what I said at a previous episode. What happened to Square, really?
Yeah.
They were a major player. I think there's like the Square which absolutely knocks it on the park and has the AAA Final Fantasy games is one aspect of Square.
Yeah.
And the other aspect of Square just doesn't know what they're doing. They've just got the internet to do it. Well, they're kind of really lopsided right now.
Yeah, they are. They are. In other news, moving away from specifics and more generalisation, cloud gaming has... Right, according to Newzoo, cloud gaming is on the rise in a big way. Newzoo have done a study regarding cloud gaming in 2020 and 2021. And they reckon that, cloud gaming did like $633 million in 2020. But Newzoo reckon that by the end of 2021, cloud gaming revenue will hit around 1.4 billion, which is double what it was in 2020. Which is... that's a massive increase.
It is, but also at this stage of that technology, I think there's a very, very low glass ceiling at the same time.
Yeah, but I mean, what they've said is that by 2023, the revenue from cloud gaming could be as high as 5.14 billion.
There's too many ifs and buts for them to sort of comfortably... That's just basically baseless conjecture.
I don't think it is. Newzoo are pretty...
No, because the reason I say that is because internet technology is too sketchy across the world. There's only certain pockets where it's good enough to support cloud gaming.
Yeah, but I mean, I think Newzoo probably have taken that into account. They're pretty solid when they do these studies. They do their research quite well. And so one of the things that's possibly driving this is that when they're talking about cloud gaming, they're not talking about consoles. They're talking about all cloud gaming, including mobile.
Talking about consoles.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're probably looking at mobile devices as well. Mobile technology is different to what we would normally use, different to consoles and everything like that. It's advancing at a pace that, it literally outstrips everything else. And my phone, I've got a OnePlus 8 Pro, yeah? And last year when I got this phone, I bought it brand new when they came out, and it was basically the top of technology. Now it's old hat. I've got what's the processor in this? It's a Snapdragon 865, yeah? And now they're up to 888. And I'm like, well, hang on, why is it up to 888? Apparently there was an 875 in between. I'm like, what? There was an 865
the
plus.
Problem with this is a separate problem, but I think mobile phones are basically running fast out of runway space.
Yeah. Not only that,
because lots of people are getting to this point where they think my phone will do. I'm not bothering updating it. It'll do. It works. Yeah. It's fast. It does everything I want from it.
Exactly. But the thing is, mobile networks are updating faster than normal internet services as well.
Yeah.
And especially
at the same time, the unreliability of certain geographical zones, or the countryside, or South America, or Australia, places like this, they don't have the luxury of just saying, oh yeah, mobile phones are great, I've got cloud gaming now, lol.
Yeah.
It's much more complicated than that. It's like a whole entire global thing going on.
Yeah, I know, but thing is, when you talk about countries like India, for example, their mobile network infrastructure is a lot stronger than people actually think. It's the same with
cities.
No,
in the big cities.
I'm talking about across the board. Trust me on this. Look, I've been to Bangladesh. I've seen what the mobile networks are like in Bangladesh. And if Bangladesh has a mobile net, right? People in Bangladesh, they might not be able to afford food, but they would sell you their left arm as long as you left their mobile phone with them, right? They can't live without their phones, and all of them have smartphones. They might not have much to eat, but they all have smartphones of one sort or another. Trust me on this, the mobile networks are developing in third world countries at a pace that we just don't imagine.
Well, they're developing faster than they are in places like England and Europe.
Never mind.
Australasia.
Our internet here in England is nowhere near up to spec.
No. I'm supposed to have super fast broadband, right? And it's only 35 meg.
Exactly.
It's supposed to be super fast. That's not super fast. That's just competently fast. That's basically when they had that runner that the country is doing. They're doing the 100 meters, and there's that one guy who is the only person who can run, but actually his real job's a swimmer. So all the others are zooming off, and he's.
Yes,
that's what it's basically like in this country.
See, this is the thing. We could have had really good internet infrastructure if the government had basically gone forward with certain plans during the 90s. We basically ended up, especially during the noughties, about 10 years behind countries like South Korea and I think Sweden and places like that. So, yeah, go British government. Good job. Anyway, a couple of interesting mobile milestones have been passed. PUBG have passed 1 billion downloads.
Yeah, how many of those are the same people, though? With, like, new handsets, or accidentally downloading it, because it's not that popular.
I don't think it's that popular either, but, the game isn't able to monetize in China, for example, but even with, duplicate downloads and stuff like that, I mean...
Does that include people who have the phone, like, you get, like, what they call it, bloatware, like software which is on your phone and you can't delete it? Is that including that?
No, it's not. If it's pre-installed software, it's not included. This is just downloads. Milestone, Tencent reckons that their revenue for games has risen by 29% year on year to $6 billion in the light of PUBG passing 1 billion downloads. And regardless of whether, I think that when you look at duplicate downloads and stuff like that, that's only going to account for a small percentage of this, possibly 5 to 10%. So that's still a massive number of downloads. On the back of that, Genshin...
I think concurrent players is a much more useful metric.
Well, there's a lot of players who play PUBG. Lots and lots of people play PUBG. There's almost as many players play PUBG as Fortnite. But anyway, moving on to another milestone for mobile devices, Genshin Impact has passed $1 billion of revenue 6 months after it was released. Now, to put that into perspective, Niantic's Pokemon Go previously held the title of passing $1 billion, but that took 9 months.
And this took how many months?
6 months.
That's super quick.
Yeah. It tells you... it suggests a few things. Genshin Impact is actually a quality game. I've played it, and it is a very, very good game. Yes, there are pay-to-win mechanics in the game later on in the game, but for a good portion of the early game, you can basically play it as if it's a normal game, and that's fine. And I think that's one of the reasons why people have invested into this game and why the pay-to-win mechanics later on in the game have been successful, because they've been introduced later on.
There's a few things to take from this. This is basically a JRPG, but Chinese, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is sort of the Witcher for China, isn't it?
Oh.
Where The Witcher made Polish games. It put a focus on Polish games that wasn't there before, and they've gone from strength to strength to strength. I think this is going to do the same for China. There's been Chinese games before Genshin Impact, many, in fact, but none which broke through in such a huge mainstream way.
Yeah.
So I think this is kind of the opening of the gates, really, for what the Chinese video game industry can do. Because that money goes back into the Chinese video game industry, so it kind of spreads around the economy there. So this will produce new projects, this will produce new opportunities and produce new games. So I think this is fantastic news.
Yeah. Before Genshin Impact and Pokemon Go, the title was held by Lineage M by NCSoft, and that took 10 months. Before that was Clash Royale, which took 11 months, and Lineage 2 Revolution, which took 12 months. And so that's how things have staggered up, I am curious to see if how long it'll take the next big hit to cross the 1 billion threshold, because it's a symptom of just how things are changing within the mobile market and how big the mobile market has got without a lot of gamers being aware of it.
That's true. The problem with the mobile market, though, is it's more fickle than any other market.
Yes, it is.
By an absolute huge margin, and the amount of shovelware and pay-to-play games, it's just a disgusting marketplace, so I don't think it's going to take prominence. Not while it's like it is now, but...
Well, see, I relate the mobile markets to things like Steam. There's a lot of crap and shovelware on Steam as well, but people still use it.
It's way worse than the mobile market, though.
Yeah, it's way worse than the mobile markets, but I think that eventually there'll be some kind of balance point. There'll be some pivot point in there which kind of pushes it over the top, and then people will basically take mobile devices and treat them as proper gaming consoles. That's the direction they're heading in already.
Yeah, and people will do that when mobile games are more than toilet games.
There's plenty of games out there that are more than toilet games.
There's just very few which are just proper games. Genshin Impact is one of them, admittedly, but beyond that, it's just toilet break waiting at a bus stop sort of games.
Yeah, that's a lot of games, but there are actual games on there. I think what happens is a lot of people don't look at the single player offline games
because they're buried.
Yeah, they are
totally
buried because those are the ones where you actually find proper games. So anyway, leaving that to one side, moving on to some, pivoting off games slightly, but still staying with them. Neil Druckman has come forward and said that the Last of Us TV show will at times deviate greatly from the game. And personally, I'm curious to see what the Last of Us fans have to say about that.
Well, the Last of Us fans can go on a short walk down not a long walk down a short pier, because there's just too much anger in that community. But yeah, this is kind of a necessity, isn't it? Because you can't have 4 episodes of the series with Joe looking through some drawers looking for scissors and tape.
I mean, Druckman's actually said, look, they're different media. You have to make these changes. Otherwise, you can't adapt this into a TV show. He said it was more important to secure the philosophical underpinnings of the story rather than worrying about should a character wear the same shirt as they do in the game.
Yeah, I mean, he's wearing like a mucky shirt.
Yeah.
That's basically the gist of it. But yeah, I think essentially this is going to be taking the plot of the first game.
Yeah.
And I think there's lots of big sort of moments in the first game. I think it's going to have to create new big moments between them, but at the same time, for people who played the game, that's going to be very difficult because you'll know that the people who were in it come out unscathed and any new characters don't. So it's kind of a very hard balancing act to create tension in this already known quantity.
In other kind of adaptation news, director Johannes Robert, who directed, I can't remember what he directed, was it a shark-based film or something?
Yeah, 27 Feet Down or 37 Feet Down, it's something like that.
Yeah.
And he did a sequel to The Strangers as well. Yeah.
He has cited John Carpenter as his filmic inspiration for his upcoming origin reboot of Resident Evil as a film franchise. And this is going to be based on the first 2 games. I'm not sure how that's going to be spun into one movie.
That doesn't make any sense. It's going to be one siege and then, that siege is over. Let's go somewhere else. Not again.
And the thing is, he's taking inspiration from claustrophobic siege movies like Assault on Precinct 13 and The Fog, which is, okay, fine, I can see that in the case of Resident Evil 2. Don't see that as much in the case of Resident Evil 1.
Yeah, Resident Evil 1's not even remotely relatable to a siege thing.
Exactly.
And also, I don't trust Johannes Roberts with this because, honestly, he is a journeyman director.
Yeah.
He's not marked himself out as a talent to pay attention on. He's just sort of one of these people who does a good job, but doesn't rock the boat.
Didn't George Romero actually pitch an idea for Resident Evil?
Yeah, I've read the script of it. It's much better, but they went with basically Paul W.S. Anderson doing My Wife in a variety of like very close.
You're not married. Do you want to rephrase that?
That's what he's done though, because Paul W.S. Anderson is married to Milovic.
Yeah, doing his wife, no, not your wife.
No, that's what it's a Adam Buxton thing. He goes, my wife.
Yes.
So that's basically what he's doing. He's just leering at his wife through 7 movies, and honestly, the George Romero one was superior in every way.
I mean, it's one of those things where the unmade work is often conceptually better than what's been made. The Justice League movie, for example, is exactly the same.
I'll put a link in the description because you can readily get the George Romero script for Resident Evil. So if you want to have a read of that on your own time, please do. It's well worth a glance.
Yeah. If you're interested in what could have been the Justice League movie if they hadn't gone with Zack Snyder instead, then look up Justice League Mortal. And for all you DC fans out there, it's the actual idea for it is incredible. Yeah. Final story before we so penultimate story. Ghost of Tsushima is getting a film adaptation now. My first question about this, because it's the director of John Wick, Chad Stahelski, and my first question about this, and my only question about this, is why.
Yeah, I mean, this is completely misunderstanding what a samurai movie is, because having seen a considerable number of them,
Yes.
most of them were quite tense political dramas, family dramas, movies about poverty and class issues. The number of them which are actually straight down the line action movies is very narrow. And also, this whole thing of when it was promoted, it's an homage to Kurosawa movies, as in Kurosawa is the only guy who ever made samurai movies.
Yeah,
No.
which, I mean, there are plenty of directors who've made samurai movies, and there are plenty of samurai movies that weren't made by Kurosawa. I mean, some of the more famous ones, Zatoichi, for example, Lone Wolf and Cub. Yeah, okay, it's a bit more outlandish as a samurai franchise, but, you know...
It's there, just about.
Yeah, it's there just about. Even more recent ones, like the live-action adaptations of Rurouni Kenshin and Blade of the Immortal, had some fantastic fight choreography in them.
Yeah, but they're like contemporary comparisons, aren't they?
Yeah.
The fact that they're referencing Kurosawa means they're talking about classic samurai movies.
Yeah.
And there's only a handful, like 5, 6, that fill that quota. Yeah. So, like, I don't know, Hideo Gosha is more well known as a samurai director for people who actually pay attention to this stuff. So the question is, this is basically going to be a samurai movie for people who thought they like samurai movies from a game which is kind of about some samurai movies.
Yeah.
So who is this really for? Because honestly, it's not for fans of samurai cinema, because it's going to basically be a lowest common denominator retelling of this story.
All I'm going to say on this is, if anyone related to anything called Sucker Punch, and I mean the movie and the video game studio, don't get involved in films, right? Because according to Nate Fox, the game director from Sucker Punch, if anyone could bring to life the razor-sharp tension of Jin's katana combat, it's Chad Stahelski. I highly disagree with you.
Yeah, but honestly, the samurai fights are basically tension relief.
Yeah.
Like, the drama is so high tension and so dramatic that the only way to relieve that tension is through these very balletic, dangerous fights, which weren't sort of long and drawn out like they were in John Wick.
Yeah.
It's basically two men with a sword over in a few strikes.
Yeah.
You can't make an action movie out of that in the way that he makes action movies.
Two things to look at, right? There's a film called The Duel, where a lot of the actual combat, it takes place on a mental level rather than a physical, right? And you remember Jet Li's face-off against Donnie Yen in Hero?
Well, I don't think it was that. It was Once Upon a Time in China 2, the only one that matters.
No, Donnie Yen's face-off against Jet Li in Hero was the one where he was like the silver spear guy, and it was taking place in the rain, and basically a lot of it was mental.
Yeah.
A lot of it was theoretical rather than actual physical. And that is basically how a lot of samurai fights generally work. Because...
In samurai cinema, yeah, it tends to be quick fights.
Yeah, it tends to be quick fights, but samurai facing other samurai tends to be like chess with swords.
But the fact that they're giving this to a director whose entire shtick is he makes movies which are stylish and flashy.
Yeah.
For a type of cinema which is historic and patient and reserved and thoughtful doesn't make me think anything other than this is basically going to be Last Samurai again.
Oh god, the super white guy effect.
This super white guy effect, Rob.
Look, it's a white guy. He's better than the natives at being a native. They did that in Brotherhood of the Wolf as well. It was a French guy who was better at being a Native American than the Native American.
Which is just wrong in all levels.
So anyway, our intermittent section called Trailer Trash is back again. This time, something is going to get trashed. Okay, absolutely trashed. Right, you know me, Rob. I love things that expand on the lore of an existing IP, that basically build on the world that's already been created, add more content to it, add more context to it. Focus on characters that have been mentioned in passing or mentioned in stories from that world. Basically flesh things out, make a much bigger world for you to explore. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate things that slavishly try to focus on things where, characters where the story's already been told and you just don't find that character interesting in the first place. So why would anyone, Daedalic, looking at you in particular, want to focus on Gollum from Lord of the Rings and make a game about Gollum?
He's identifiable. He's a brand. Although, honestly, I don't think Gollum has any fans. I think Gollum's performance is what has all of the fans.
Yeah.
I think they're all people who think they love Andy, the performance, and they think they love Gollum. They don't. They just love what Andy Serkis did with him.
Yeah, but they don't know what Gollum's like because most of them haven't read Lord of the Rings or the Silmarillion or any of the other books around Middle-earth.
Oh, he's going full nerd now.
No, I'm not going full nerd. If you want full nerd about Lord of the Rings, go check out some of the Stephen Colbert stuff. He is full nerd. I am fairly tame. I've read Lord of the Rings. I've read The Hobbit, I've read various other things like Farmer Giles of Ham and The Tale of Tom Bombadil, and all sorts of other stuff like that. I've read the Silmarillion, as confusing as it was. You don't read the Silmarillion, it just happens, right? I'm quite well versed with Middle-earth lore. Obviously not as much as some hardcore fans of Middle-earth, but one of the reasons I like games like Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War is that it built on the actual existing lore. I like...
Kind of scuffed up... shell of blood, but that's besides the point.
Exactly. But it did still try and expand on the world, and there are characters from Lord of the Rings who, there are stories about them that the hobbits, find out about. There are stories about other characters. There are legends in Middle-earth already. Why not do games about those and build and expand on Middle-earth and make it more complete? Why do a story about Gollum, one of the most dull characters in Lord of the Rings?
It's just going to be hiding from stuff, and he has an identity crisis.
Do you remember that game, that Goblin Assassin game called Styx or something like that?
STYX.
Yeah, Styx. Not the band, the game. Not the river.
Not the river either.
The game. But it kind of reminds me of that, only with a much weaker, much weirder character who has an identity crisis.
We got a breaking email here.
Yeah?
An hour ago, just to close the show. It says, "Dear whoever, we are closing the PlayStation Store on PlayStation 3 on the 2nd of July 2021 and on PlayStation Vita devices on 27th August 2021. The remaining purchase functionality of PSP will also retire on the 2nd of July 2021. After thoughtful consideration, we decided to make these changes in an effort to focus our resources on PlayStation for PlayStation Store on PS4 and PS5, which will enable us to enhance the customer experience even further. We thank you for your support on these platforms throughout the years." I don't want any more comment on that. We've kind of already covered that, but this is basically confirmation now.
Yeah.
Public confirmation.
Yeah. I think they've been pushed into this. They do go on to say about content you already own, you will still be able to download your owned PS3, PS Vita and PSP content, including games and video content. You can download your owned content onto your PS3, PS Vita and PSP by accessing the download list on the respective device. If you have purchased a PS3, PS Vita cross-buy bundle and have only downloaded either the PS3 or PS Vita version, you will need to download the other version prior to the closure of the PlayStation Store on the relevant device. Video content that you own can be streamed on the PS3, PS4 or PS5 through My Video apps. So, from what I'm seeing here, right, they're saying you can download your own content onto the device, but what they're also suggesting is that once the store closes, you won't be able to download it anymore.
Yeah, basically using these devices as storage devices for old games.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people don't have the storage capacity on their PlayStation 3s to download that many games.
So I think we're just going to hold it there because this is perfect property territory for a Impossible Mission episode.
Yeah.
To really dig into this.
Because we did an episode on the future of games ownership back in July last year, but we focused mainly on streaming, and I think this time we're going to have to revisit that.
We're going to have to do a part 2. And on that, this is all we have time for in this slightly delayed episode of News Trash. It was delayed because we had technical issues. These things happen. We apologise.
Also, slightly longer episode, but there was a lot of news to get through.
Yes. So, thank you for watching as ever. Thank you if you made it all the way to the end, especially. If you're listening on YouTube, thank you very much. But if you're listening on the podcast provider, I think this is a solo episode, which, given how long it is, I think it's fair enough. If we put another thing on the end of this, it'd probably be way too long. Talking American podcasts too long. Until next time, thanks for watching.
Bye!